So it's cool to be here. I'll spare the introduction because you already know what I do for a living. Three things. I invest in startups. I work with really, really big companies that we take private. And then the third thing I do is work with foundations that mean the world to me. So Charity Water is a group that serves the 1 billion people on the planet who don't have access to clean water. And then Livestrong, a group started by Lance Armstrong that brings awareness, science, research, advocacy to people fighting cancer. A very winnable battle. But I'm here today in the short time that I have to talk to you about what I think are going to be the three dominant trends in 2010. And those are douchebags, porn, and lube. Now seriously, douchebags, porn, and lube. And we all know what douchebags are. And I think those of you who've been watching the United States from afar know that the years 2000 to 2008 were very bad for the growth of douchebags in our country. We saw douchebags come to power. I'm happy to report that in 2009, we were able to move past some of the douchebags that were controlling the country, and I'm very optimistic about the demise of the douchebag. But at the same time, you know that there are millions of douchebags online still, and this is a problem. Douchebags online create hostile environments where it's hard, very challenging for us to participate in conversations. They're anonymous, they're not authenticated, so they can be mean. They can be hateful, disruptive. They're empowered by being the first commenter on someone's blog. And they get in the way of the actual meaningful kinds of conversations that we have in real life. These douchebags have actually, in the early days, seized control of the web. They forced us to build censorship, moderation, all these kinds of products that we don't really have in real life, because in real life, we keep ourselves honest. We actually have discourse between us. And so you know you've been through sites on the web where you see this kind of interaction all the time. And it's actually horrible. I think it undermines the root of the web. But what I'm actually happy to report is that I think we're moving past this now. And that in 2010, we'll start to see the demise of the douchebag and the rise of the real web. Now, we talked about the real-time web here, but I think what's really cool about the web that's happening right now is the introduction of all of these different distributed authentication systems, which are tying our activity on the web to our actual identities. Whether it's Facebook Connect, whether it's Twitter and OAuth, whether it's Google's efforts in the space, we're starting to actually be verified against a real community of people that we actually enjoy working with, that know us from how we've grown up, that we've collaborated with, that we worship with, who we play sports with. All these communities start to actually keep us real and provide a real civil discourse. Add to that in the infusion of location information, and we have a real web. The web is starting to be, instead of a replacement for real life, an adjunct to real life. This really encourages me, and so I think what we're going to see definitely in this year and the next is more and more collaborative, cooperative interaction on the web. And I implore each of you to think about this as you build services, you build sites. How can we actually build these so that they bring and they incent people to use their real names, their real identities, and interact in meaningful ways? Now, porn, for me, is something near and dear to my heart. And I know filing violet blue is tough. But since this is Europe, I figure you're a very liberal audience, so I don't think anyone would have any problems with me showing some of the choicest, some of the best examples of porn from my own secret stash. So if you can get comfortable, I want to show you kind of some of the things that I find most enticing. But first, let's just remind ourselves of the definition of porn. Porn is pictures, writing, or other material intended to cause arousal. And so these are the pictures that cause me, for better or worse, arousal. Oh yeah, look at that. It's pretty sweet, huh? Oh yeah, look at those lines and all those colors. Ooh, the curves on this one. I'm losing my breath a little bit. Wow, I mean, look at. Is this good for you too? For me, data is porn. I mean, I don't know what you were thinking you were going to see, but I'm a geek, and so for me, data is absolutely pornographic. And what's neat is we've never had access to more data than we do today. It's true. I mean, here you've seen on this stage during this conference all of these companies, Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, PayPal, announcing more access to more data to developers. There's so much stuff coming out of the Twitter fire hose, nobody even knows what to do with it all. It's truly like drinking from a fire hose. And yet we know that this data can enrich all of the services that we provide. Just think about it. We've never known more about people's preferences, inclinations, locations, history, transactional likelihood. We've never known more about their gender, their sex, their behavior, ever, than now. And we can use this data to make better services, easier services, and actually make a lot of money, too. I think back to the days when I was at Google. In 2003, I joined, and the ad business was already doing very well. They were selling a lot of ads, very successful, billions of dollars of revenue already. But if you were on the web back then and you were paying attention, you remember that Google Ads just dropped you off at the front door of a website. There was no actual insight into how those ads actually performed across the rest of the website. And so what happened was, when advertisers bought advertising, they had to make up the pricing. If you looked into the AdWords console back then, the prices were all even numbers because they were completely bullshit, made up, grabbed out of thin air. I think the most pivotal acquisition Google ever made was Urchin, which became Google Analytics. With Urchin now, you could actually see all the way through a customer cycle on your site to whether they bought your stuff or not. And with that information, you could feed that back and know exactly how much that ad was worth to you. So the sales guys in suits went away, and the geeks with computers came in, and that's what became the ad sales force. So finally, for the first time ever in history, an advertiser knew exactly what they should spend, not a penny less or a penny more, on an ad. And what did that do? It led to massive uplift in Google sales. Google blew it out. You know what a big company it is now. And yet the funny thing is, we haven't done this in any other realms yet. We haven't built this kind of insight anywhere. My girlfriend who's here today, at Krista Lee on Twitter, was the one who came up with the Intel Rockstars campaign. This is hundreds of millions of dollars have gone into this campaign. And there's actually very little way to measure the impact other than all the great articles, all the great blog posts, all the great comments on YouTube. People generally like this campaign. But nobody's actually built in the science to figure out how it leads to buys, how it leads to purchases and conversions. We know that Intel, after this campaign came out, blew away their quarter, beat all their expectations. Their employees have never been happier. When you actually hear the bong sound, that's real employees singing it now. So everyone's really jazzed about this campaign. But we can't actually tell who got exposed to this ad and went and bought a computer with an Intel sticker on it instead of an AMD sticker. That seems like a problem that the people here in this room can fix. I mean, every time this ad shows, odds are very high that there's an iPhone in the room. Wouldn't it be cool if that iPhone talked to the ad and knew you saw it and then watched when you went to Best Buy or to Fry's or to any of the retailers like a Tesco over here and bought a product? We should be able to do that now. I'm working with a company in England called Path Intelligence that does exactly that, or at least the start of that. What they do is they watch how cell phones move across a mall, and they can actually see the traffic patterns emerge, and then they can see the impact of advertising on one end of the mall to drive traffic to the other end of the mall. Add to that every mall owner knows the retail sales of each of their tenants on a regular basis, and what you can do is simple division and know the exact incremental value of each additional customer that's sent into a retail location. With that, you know exactly what to pay for an ad. When you do that, ad spend goes way up, and instead of a bunch of hand-waving bullshit, it's math that's buying ads. This should be the case across all of our platforms, and I think if we really focus on using data to inform these decisions, we'll have better targeted content, better targeted ads, easier monetization for all of us, users will be happier, and we'll be richer. And so I implore you to keep an eye on data, particularly as it just gets sexier and sexier in the years to come. Last thing I want to talk about is lube. Now, as both guys and girls know, if you have two hard surfaces rubbing on each other, it creates friction. And if you do it too much, you get a little bit of chafing. Well, this is what chafing looks like on the internet. Anyone who's sold anything online knows what this is. This is a funnel. So at the top here, we see 428 people who put items from a site into their shopping cart. So these are people who are geared up. They're gung-ho to buy something. They like it. They want to go. So now we go one screen ahead to the shipping info, and we've lost over half of those people. Literally, a click to the shipping info to enter in that information has lost half. One more down to the payment info, we've lost half again. Down to the actual clicking to purchase this stuff, we've lost half. What happened to all those people? We ended up with 15% of the original people who were very, very inclined to buy this stuff. We made it too hard for them. This is true of so many of our services. We ask our users to do too much work, to re-authenticate against our own island platform instead of using something standard, to provide us information we already know or we could have access to if we partnered up with somebody else, to give us data before we even have actually provided any value to them. And so there are a couple companies that have nailed this, that have solved this problem. How many of you have gotten one of these? And this is the iTunes hangover email, right? This is the email that comes 2 days after you sat down, you had a couple beers, You started clicking on iTunes. And then this thing comes, and you're like, holy shit, did I just spend $102 on songs from the 80s? How does that happen? He's made it so smooth, so frictionless. You authenticate once, and then it's just a click. You're not even reminded that you made the purchase. It's just downloading in the background. That's why that store has exploded. You go to Amazon, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have Amazon habits, because with the one click, they make it so easy to just bury yourself in purchases and to have a steady stream of those cardboard boxes coming to your house. They've removed the friction, and they've said, let's standardize these, let's smooth them out, let's work against something authenticated. We'll bear the risk that maybe these transactions weren't intended, that maybe they're fraudulent transactions, and we'll do this toward the aim of making it easier for everybody else. The same happens not just in terms of buying stuff, but in terms of even just signing up for web services. Think of the last time you used a web service and how hard it was to get on, right? Oftentimes, you're asked to create a profile before you've even gotten any benefit back. Like Tim Ferriss mentioned earlier, I also work with a company called Posterous, and Posterous has actually rooted the entire user experience in saying, look, email is much, much easier than logging into a client or a web interface to try and post a blog. Email gives the ability to have any file sent up into the Posterous system and let Posterous do the work to actually parse the file. And what's neat about this service is that they actually do this without asking you to create any account at all. They provide benefit to you first, and then later, if you want to claim the account, you can come back in and sign in and claim it as your own. So you literally just take any picture, any video, any document you've got right now, email it to post@posterous.com, and you've put it up on the web. That is putting the user first. And what's funny about it is, while so many companies focus so much on registered users and harnessing those users and thinking like that's the key to monetization, these guys have such high conversion. From this page, as Tim noted, these guys have such a massive growth rate. It's 50% month over month right now, and it has been all year. That what's fascinating is they end up in a better spot by just making it easier and by giving users the benefit of the doubt up front. So with that, I want to say, keep in mind this year the decline of the douchebag, the rise of porn, and let's all work towards lubricating the internet. This is how to get in touch with me. That's my Twitter handle. If you're a non-douchebag, feel free to email me. And now I want to show you the #1 most important URL on the entire web, mycharitywater.org. Please go there. I think in lieu of Christmas presents this year, we can all do everything we can to help the billion people without clean water. $20 saves a kid's life. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
See you in a bit. Thank you very much.